When people start thinking about God, they get agitated. This is a common saying in the Western world. In the eyes of Christians, God is the rightful existence. However, in our context, people tend to equate religious beliefs with superstition. Are science and religion in opposition? Which is more important, faith or reason? Today, we return to the starting point of these questions. Let's revisit the famous scenes of conflict between Christians and Romans. Before we get into the main topic, we need to clarify the two strands of Western civilization development. One of them is the rational spirit originating from ancient Greece and Rome. It is the beginning of all thoughts, including philosophy, mathematics, geometry, astronomy, politics, and law. Under this combination of rational spirit and empirical evidence, modern science was born in the Western world. The second is the theistic thinking that entered from the East during the Hellenistic period, the most representative of which is Christianity originating from Judaism. In other words, religious belief. In the early Christian fathers, we can find a strong sense of exclusivity. They considered any thoughts contrary to doctrine as heresy. Among these, what the fathers hated the most was ancient Greek philosophy. They view this spirit of questioning and inquiry as the greatest enemy of Christianity. They see it as the greatest enemy of Christianity. The fathers, represented by Deltoian, believed that ancient Greek philosophy was merely a one-sided error, misleading heretical teachings that bewitch people's hearts. Of course, before Christianity became the state religion of Rome, the Romans, influenced by Greek culture, also generally believed that Christianity was just a superstition of barbarians. They believed that all their religious rituals were just tricks to deceive. In the eyes of the Romans at that time, the polytheistic beliefs derived from ancient Greek mythology were considered legitimate, while Christianity was seen as a deceitful trick to deceive the lower class. In order to defend their faith, Deltoian countered, Christianity is the gospel of God. Philosophy is the doctrine of man and demons. All philosophy distorts the will of God in a twisted way. All heretical thoughts that oppose Christianity are influenced and instigated by philosophy. People should abandon all philosophy and wholeheartedly believe in Christianity. In the discussion of banning heretics, Deltuo Liang once wrote, "What do Athens and Jerusalem have in common? What similarities are there between the academy and the church? What do pagans have to do with Christians?" All attempts to equate Stoicism, Platonism, and dialectics with Christian faith are just nonsense. Get lost. After having Jesus Christ, we don't need debates out of curiosity. After enjoying the gospel, we don't need any doubts either. Because we have faith, we no longer need other beliefs. Another Latin father, Lactantius, believed all ancient Greek philosophy is hypocritical. They advocate virtues on the surface, but actually breed evil. Democritus' atomic theory is the root of people indulging in worldly pleasures. Pythagoras' theory of reincarnation even incites people to commit suicide. The so-called great Greek philosopher Plato of Athens openly advocates in the Republic such an unequal hierarchical system, promoting personal worship and dictatorial oligarchy. He is the most hypocritical. Another catechist, Chaston, believes the moral standards of Christians surpass those of the ancient Greek philosophers. By how many levels? True philosophy is only found in Christianity. In his catechism, he provided a Christian interpretation of the works of the ancient Greek philosopher, Rox. By Christianizing them, he believes Jesus is the second person of the Trinity, the only begotten Son of God the Father. He is completely one with God, because mankind cannot save themselves from sin. So God commanded Jesus to come to the world. Through Mary, Roxas was conceived, taking on flesh as a human. This is the incarnation in the Gospel of John. Therefore, Christ Jesus is the true Roxas. Previously, the ancient Greek philosophers took advantage of Christ's absence from the world. They misled everyone. Their perspective was very limited. These so-called philosophers spent their whole lives only knowing a part of Roxas, that is, the truth revealed by Roxas, and they never actually saw Roxas himself, because only the incarnation, becoming Jesus Christ afterwards, can mankind fully understand the way of God. Understanding this kind of Roxas, in the defenses of these fathers, we can find they, in their fight against ancient Greek philosophy, usually resorted to mysticism, to belittle rational spirit, including the fundamental doctrines of Christianity, are fundamentally anti-rational. They assumed their own faith was a kind of truth. Their position was absolutely justified. So before Christianity became the state religion of Rome, their target for development was usually the lower class of society, because those nobles simply did not believe. They obviously had more leisure time to think independently, and also had more educational resources. The level of debate of the Church Fathers simply could not convince them. Just in terms of debate, looking back at ancient Greece, philosophers like Socrates, Gorgias, Zeno, and others were incomparable to them. For these Roman nobles who admired Greek philosophy, who upheld the spirit of reason, what they preached, such as the Incarnation, the Trinity, resurrection, original sin, and redemption, were all unable to be proven or judged by experience and logic. Therefore, most highly educated Roman nobles generally held a mocking and playful attitude towards Christianity. Until the appearance of Augustine, the defense of Christianity shifted from opposing reason to denying reason, gradually turning towards a reconciliation between faith and reason. After Christianity became the state religion of Rome, following Augustine's teachings, they began to attempt to rise above secular society, practicing his title as God, to the extent that the secular authority of the state all prostrated under the authority of God. Thus began the so-called Dark Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, we can see the contradiction between faith and reason is irreconcilable. The two cannot be reconciled. The faith advocated by Christianity always comes before reason. Nothing beyond the secular and reason can be called faith. Anything rational in secular society cannot be called faith. Under rational scrutiny, faith often appears to be unreasonable, or even absurd. Therefore, the truth in religious faith cannot be subjected to rational scrutiny. Believers will only consider this truth to be beyond common sense, an existence beyond reason. Because it is beyond, it is absurd. Because it is absurd, it is faith. As the early church father Tertullian once proclaimed, God's Son died, but he rose again. Precisely because this is extremely absurd. That's why I choose to believe. Because these facts are undeniable. Today, science and religion are not completely opposed. Their contradictions and conflicts in history finally return to two parallel lines: mutual respect and non-interference. Even in the realm of pure science, faced with the absolute rationalism of positivism, religion still plays a role in different regions, embodying the will of good and evil. It has also become the most fundamental basis for value judgments. Up to this day, religious culture is not synonymous with superstition and ignorance. Perhaps we will never understand the beliefs of the Christian world. We may also never believe the incredible stories in the Bible. Towards the Christian world, our concepts are equally incomprehensible. Take the most basic family relationships for example. The Christian world generally believes that the transcendence of children belongs to God. So it is not your personal continuation and replica. They are usually driven by a culture of love, relationships between family members. Secondly, the secular aspects of children belong to the state. If someone hits, scolds, or punishes a child, based on common consensus, people will choose to report to the authorities. They will be deprived of custody rights. Because a child is an independent individual, not a possession you can dispose of at will. Based on this culture of love, the Christian world generally cannot understand the filial piety culture in East Asia. They do not consider caring for the elderly of traditional virtues. On the contrary, supporting citizens should be the government's responsibility. It can be said, Confucianism in East Asia, just as Christianity in the West, they also operate within a certain regional scope. They play a role in affirming social ethical values. They provoke social reflection for people, providing a simple guidance. When you uphold those traditional virtues, consider looking at things from the other person's perspective. It might be worth considering things from the other person's perspective. Those ideas that we once considered foolish, it is precisely their traditional wisdom. When we mock others' religious beliefs, reflect on yourself. Aren't you also a devout Confucian in this familiar and natural context? It's just in this familiar and taken-for-granted context. You have never examined your own life and beliefs. Next time, we will take a look at Augustine, and how he defends God. Stay tuned as I take you through a popular philosophy. Friends, see you next time. You.